25 minutes before 8 here on the program. Insurance companies have added grid collapse exclusions to their policies, removing cover for any loss, damage or liability caused by an Eskom blackout. Now, South Africa's Special Risk Insurance Association, that's SASRIA, is the latest to have reportedly told its clients that it will not pay claims for damage related to a collapse of the national electricity grid. Energy experts have raised concerns that blackouts will intensify in the coming weeks as winter approaches. South Africa has experienced high levels of load shedding over the past year, and this week Eskom implemented stage 6 load shedding, which is expected to persist throughout the week. In fact, it is until further notice. To discuss this, we are joined in studio by energy expert Adil Nchabeleng, as well as virtually by the chairman of the management committee of the NRS Association of SA, Vally Padayachee. Gentlemen, good to have both of you. Thank you very, very much for joining us here on the program. Vally, let me begin with you. You're sort of far, so let's get you started. Give us an assessment of where we're at right now. I mean, you were formerly an executive manager of Eskom and also a senior executive of City Power in Johannesburg. Where we stand right now, during your tenure, at your time, have you ever seen the grid look in the position that it's in right now?
Good morning, Leanne. Good morning to my fellow panelists, Adil, and a very good morning to the viewers as well. Yes, I think just responding from the facts as a professional, etc., and just alluding to what you said, I think it's common knowledge that the grid, the status of the grid is not the same as it was, well, if I go back to my time at Eskom, which is many, many years ago. So currently, factually, if we talk on two parameters, if you look at the energy availability factor, we are right down. We are in the middle 50s, and I think it's 55, 56%. And we are, on average, in terms of the President's National Electricity Plan, we are short of about 6,000 megawatts, but going into winter, the middle of winter, that gap deficiency could increase. So as in summary, we are sitting on a knife edge. I mean, you mentioned we are at stage 6 load shedding, but I think as a professional, as an experienced professional, I'm unable to give you a guarantee that we would not go beyond stage 6 load shedding, let alone stage 8. But having said that, Leanne, we must not forget that load shedding, and I've said this a number of times on the media, that load shedding is an excellent management tool from a power generation perspective to prevent us from going into a blackout situation. Okay. And into the collapse of the grid. Yeah. And we don't want to get into a blackout situation.
No, we certainly don't. And that's where I want to bring into the conversation, Adil. So, yes, we're sitting on stage 6, and some would say we're higher than stage 6, because, I mean, when you look at the schedule, and then you suddenly, like, without, I mean, just in my area alone, we were off for well over 12 hours yesterday. Absolutely, I mean, we were clicking 15, 16 hours yesterday of no electricity. It's just the way it happens. And this is causing a major problem. Rain, clouds, cold, demand, everything is gone. From your expectation, put that out there for us. I mean, stage 6, the Minister of Electricity has even said we should expect to go higher than stage 8, 9, 10, who knows?
I think Eskom has, and thank you for the opportunity, good morning. Eskom has taken a more or less a decision to say we are going to cap the announcement of stages at stage 6. Yeah, so they're not going to say stage 8, 12, whatever. And as a result, they're giving us this impression that everything is oscillating around stage 6, which is actually a lie right now. It's beyond stage 6 with the frequency of cutouts as well as a load shedding schedule. We're sitting at minimum of 12 hours on a given day at any area. and they are blanketing out major areas at a given time, which means if not half of the country, almost 80% of the country is without electricity at any given time. So the communication is managed so that there is no, sort of agitation on the ground and people start taking to the streets and marching and all of that. So it's been properly managed at a communication level. But at the systems level, there's a strain. The system has taken a huge strain. We're sitting at a massive, almost catastrophe-like. You have over 50% of your generating capacity not available, which means you're literally running on a 50% blackout at any given time. So, people don't want to exaggerate it, but it is exaggerated at the level. That is why you're seeing insurance companies, mining companies, you're seeing industrial companies, all of them are at a prepared level, which means at any given time, the likelihood scenario is there could be a frequency drop, and if that frequency drop, the entire grid will collapse, which means they'll have to literally switch it off in order to correct the frequency level.
So this has been, this is the reality. We've been hearing about this grid collapse and worrying if it's going to happen. People still sticking by the story that it is a very low likelihood it'll happen. So we will add that in. However, when we start seeing insurance companies now sending us an update to all of our policies, and that happened to us this week as well, saying that we will not cover anything if it is the result of a complete blackout. So if there are riots, if something happens during this blackout and it can be attributed to a blackout, you will not get paid out. SASRIA are taking the same. Even though they cover events like terrorism, riots, violence, all of that, they will not cover a total blackout. Which then leads me to this question. What does a total blackout look like?
Look, we're currently in a partial blackout. Half of your day you don't have electricity. They are managing it with load staging stages. So now look at the scenario where there's a complete non-availability of electricity, where there is from sunrise to sunset, right through the night, the entire grid has collapsed and there is no electricity in South Africa. They are working behind the scene to restart the system, what they call a total system restarting, where they'll have to refire it back and make sure that they can actually transmit and they synchronize all the power stations around the country at the same voltage and frequency. And that is what we're looking at. So there will be no electricity at all for all the citizens. It doesn't matter who, and the system will have to be restarted. It's an unlikely scenario to happen if they manage load shedding properly. So even if they have to increase load shedding to a point where it's 18 hours to 20 hours, they will literally cripple the particular grid as well as the plants to make sure that the frequency is maintained. But you will not have electricity. So we're already in a partial grid collapse, a blackout right now because of the load staging.
And how long does a blackout last for? It's not something that somuddenly
it will take weeks. No, so South Africa is incompetent, concern. First of all. If it takes more than, the likelihood is 2 weeks for them to bring it out back. But we're talking about incompetent people. It will take a month, 2 or 3 for, some reason. Because they are not really good at getting things done at the time it should be done.
Yeah. Are we near that, though? Or are we just sort of...
We're at the tipping edge.
We're at the tipping edge.
The minister was here. He couldn't even give you answers on what they're trying to do.
The minister doesn't have a mandate. The minister has no office.
Irrespective of the mandate, they should know.
He has no mandate.
They should know what should be done. He's toured the facilities. He knows where the problems are. Why isn't he imposing upon the current ministers, DPE, as well as the Minister of Minerals and Energy, to make sure that there could be resources allocated towards the plant's recovery? Because the problem doesn't sit outside Eskom. He spoke about a lot of solutions outside Eskom that are not plant related. The current problem of load shedding is squarely in the plants that are unavailable. They just announced that they are sitting at 19,333 megawatts of unplanned breakdowns. Almost 20,000 is unavailable. There's another 4,000 that they are currently doing on planned maintenance. So that scenario gives you literally, a shock in the system to say that...
I think one of the hardest things for me to take out of the interview yesterday, which Sakina did with the electricity minister, was that he admitted that his powers are limited, if at all he has any powers. So my sort of suggestion to him would be then, okay, if your powers are so limited you can't do anything, then quit your position.
Why was he appointed?
Why were you appointed? Because it looks like they're doing something about the situation. They're not. B, leave the salary behind that you're earning as a minister and all of the perks that come with it, and walk away and say, you know what? You're just putting me here as a face to be shouted at and spoken to, and I've got no powers. If that's how passionate you feel about fixing it.
Totally.
Do you feel the same?
I feel the same, because they either setting him up to fail, and he is going to fail. It's a given fact.
Vally, I know you want to come in and talk. I'd love to hear your views on this. Vally, give us your views.
Yes, Leanne, I think I need to come in because, with due respect, I'm not sure if Adil has worked in the power station. If he's worked there, then I must apologize for making this comment. I'm not sure if he's worked in a power station, but I think we must just be careful that the comments that he's making is not accurate. And if you give me a few minutes, I need to explain what a potential blackout is and what are the stages being
If you can give it to us in the quickest way. We don't have too much time, but it is important, Vally, if you can tell us what that blackout looks like from your perspective of working there, but we don't have too much time, so if you can keep it quite summarized.
Yes, I think you just need to give me a few minutes, because let me take a step back. How does a load shedding stage is called? National control and the system operator monitors the demand on an hourly basis every day, 24/7, 365, and then they come up with a forecasted demand on the time of day. And based on the forecasted demand, they look at what's available to mitigate that forecasted demand. And national control uses a number of steps before they declare an emergency, which declares a load shedding stage. And part of that steps is to look at the existing supply, look at load curtailment, etc., etc. And then when they get to an absolute deficiency, and in this case, if you look at stage 6, it's 6,000 megawatts. So then they declare a load shedding stage of 6,000 megawatts, which is stage 6. Now, as I indicated, that's an excellent management tool to prevent us from going into a blackout. And I'm of the opinion, and even from an NRS perspective, we don't believe that we will get into a blackout situation even in the middle of winter. We will most likely, as I indicated, go to advanced stages of load shedding, but the grid, we believe, will not collapse. So we must not create panic with the public and talk about blackout situation. And true, once we get into a blackout situation, which we don't want to get into, it'll take 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks to get back. But we are of the opinion that given the steps that or the tools or the armor that national control has in its midst, that all of that has to go wrong before a blackout is called.
Yeah.
So hence we make the call that we don't believe that we'll get into a blackout situation, but we will more than likely get beyond stage 6.
Indeed.
But definitely not a blackout situation, and that's a comfort I think we need to give the public, and notwithstanding the comments that Adil has made, and then we will be careful that we don't create undue panic with the public.
Yeah, and Vally,
we don't want to have that.
It is very important, and I'm glad that you are.
We must be responsible. We must be responsible enough.
Indeed, but I think we also sometimes people are being very realistic, because let's look at it this way, and perhaps I pose this to you. You know, we've had a lot of people talking to the issue of politics as well. Remember that elections are around the corner, and the worse the electricity situation gets, the worse it makes the ruling party look, and that unfortunately we can't take out of the equation. There were talks earlier that, you know, we would sort of create less load shedding because we instituted this Minister of Electricity. Suddenly we went down to stage 1 and 2, and even days we didn't have load shedding. And then suddenly it all of a sudden hit us on the face, stage 6 until further notice. And this was people saying that this was just too much. We shouldn't have done that. Now, perhaps you know more than we do. What do you have to say about that? Politics, and we know politics plays a very big role in all of this.
Leanne, I think I have to be very careful. I don't want to get into the politics. I'm not here as a politician, but as a technocrat, as a person with experience, I can talk from a technical point of view, and I can give you the assurance that we are not in a blackout situation just yet. And I'm repeating, we may get into advanced levels of load shedding, but we are not yet in a blackout situation. And as an NRS, I want to give that assurance to the public that, and if we get, and remember, advanced levels of load shedding is still an effective way of mitigating going into a blackout situation.
Okay.
We will just remember that. So politics aside, I'm not here to talk politics, but technically, I think we are still on safe ground at the moment.
Adil, let's get your views. What do you think about that?
Look, I think Vally has been cautious. He's already on the short list, I believe, of the people that they are looking for in terms of appointing a CEO for Eskom. So he's going to play it nice and careful. We wish him luck if he gets it. But I don't think at this cautionary level, he's going to be a good CEO, because you have to be very factual. We're looking at a disaster. And in a disaster situation, all you need to do is to prepare and mitigate against it. Right now, we're raising the alarm because if things go wrong, they are going to be affecting all of us. And the fact is that is why he says that there's going to be higher load shedding stages, which just tells you exactly that the grid is partially collapsing. But what we're talking about is if the entire thing comes to a frequency drop, which is when the grid will collapse and goes into a blackout. That is the most undesirable state, but nothing has been done so far to ensure that we are going to make sure that there is no grid and frequency drop at the voltage level. And if they can answer that question and saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're mitigating, we're restoring the current energy availability factor, we're bringing in the megawatts that we want, and those megawatts will ensure that we have vet this load shedding stages that are going to be incremental. That will be helpful. Giving us a lecture on how the system works and all of that, we know. I come here as an expert. I'm not coming here to rehearse my information, but he has to understand. We as activists, we as experts in the market, understand the problem. We said very clearly, Eskom can be restored and 6,000 megawatts can be recovered within 3 months. The question is, how is it going to be done? Call us in and ask us our opinions and insights.
How is it going to be done?
That should be done. The process to do it is to make sure that we recover the 6,000 megawatts. We go to the power plants that are underperforming, bring them back up to status, ensure that they are repaired, and most of them have been shut down. 19,000 megawatts unavailable. It is catastrophic. They should bring that back and ensure that. And how we're going to do it is they must give us the job and saying, guys, you say you can do it. Let's try you on. 3 months, we give you a trial and do your job. We pay you on results. We'll put up a team who will make sure that they get this megawatts recovered in power plants together with Eskom team and people, and we'll get this thing sorted out. So this whole, sort of running around and telling us endless stories of what should be done outside Eskom is not going to help us. Load shedding is an Eskom problem. Anything else on top will help.
Yeah.
Reducing demand helps. Introducing IPP helps. Making sure that there could be backup power. They want to spend 30 billion on banning diesel for what? We don't even have those diesel plants that can consume 30 billion. So there is a level of crime and a lot of corruption and a half of really, stories that we've been given that are covering up a lot of rubbish. So we want to get to the facts.
And it's 30 billion
recover
now.
6,000 megawatts and load shedding. And then you will not hear from us as experts and analysts, because we don't have a work when there's no load shedding.
Vally, perhaps I can just ask you, are you being shortlisted for the position of CEO at Eskom?
I don't want to comment on that, Leanne, because the process is in carrying on, so it's not fair for me to comment on that. But let me make one more comment, Leanne, before you...
Please do.
Before you end the conversation. In terms of the under-frequency, as my fellow panelists, and I'm not sure if we still worked in the power station before, or in the power environment, hands-on, the load shedding is at the ICE level seeks to ensure that the under frequency, which is at 50 Hz, is always maintained. So that's not at risk, and hence we load shed, and if we need to maintain that frequency with supply and demand, we will increase the load shedding. So just to inform my colleague there on the panel, the under frequency is not at risk. And we do that because of load shedding. And I'm repeating, load shedding is still an effective management tool.
Vally, if I may say, I mean, yesterday the minister said that availability factor is 53% on average. What does this suggest for winter? I know that you're keeping nerves calm, and it's a good angle to take. We're not taking away from that, but the reality is South Africans are struggling. We really are struggling. So when you hear that coming out of the minister's mouth, what does that tell you? Vally, perhaps you can respond to that.
Yes, the minister is absolutely correct. At 53%, it's not where we should be.
But it's not winter yet.
Actually, we should be at 70% because the electricity crisis plan is based on a 70% availability factor and a megawatts of 6,000 megawatts. So that's why I say, and I didn't deny it, that because of the 53% energy availability factor, and I'm not sure how far we can pick that up in winter, we will definitely get into high stages of load shedding because if you work in a power station, you will know that you got to maintain supply and demand by the very second. And with 53% energy availability factor, it means that the deficiency is going to be quite large, and hence I'm saying, as a technocrat, as an expert, that we will more than likely go beyond stage 6,
I think
let alone stage 8.
We can definitely confirm that. If we're already on stage 6, there's 53% availability and we are not in winter. I think, Vally, we can confirm here that stage 6 is probably the lowest we're going to go at this point. Let me get your closing word here, Adil. I mean, you know, this is, we have to worry because it doesn't matter how we temper nerves and say that we mustn't worry about it. When we start seeing press releases coming out and changes to our policies, SASRIA saying they are prepared, banks are preparing themselves, cell phone signals, telephone operators, everybody is preparing, and it's good to prepare. But what is this telling us?
Look, it's telling us that the ones at the decision-making helm are literally dropping the ball big time. Because I would have expected the minister to say, I'm coming in, I'm going to be restoring electricity. We're going into winter. That winter is going to be the worst because there's going to be a higher demand, there's going to be lesser supply. And with that, it's just going to start telling you there's going to be catastrophe. So, what you call a load shedding stages are going to increase, and with that, it's going to really spell out problems. If this grid collapses, I'm telling you, the likelihood of it is higher now. We're in a likelihood scenario which says if it collapses, we're going to see a catastrophe in South Africa. And unfortunately, people are denying it because they are trying to play, cover up. But give yourself that situation and then act in an emergency. They are not acting at an emergency right now. They're too comfortable. They are still giving us stories. And we hope by the minister's announcement that he will be given powers tomorrow is Wednesday, right? He says he will get his powers awarded to him and probably could do something. But he needs to get his job right, get to the power stations, restore the megawatts. Thereafter, we can avert the crisis. Okay. It is avertible.
Energy expert Adil Nchabeleng and the chairman of the Management Committee and NRS Association of SA, Vally Padayachee. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much.